Oh, sorry. All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Tuesday night Principal Chiro broadcast from DE and Band of Brothers. I'm Dr. Brian Moriarty, your esteemed MC for tonight's exciting call, and I'm joined here by the one and only Emma. And Emma, what would you like to say?
DE is the best.
All right. Thank you, Emma, and thanks for helping me MC tonight.
You're welcome.
So we are currently in a torrential downpour. So if we lose power here, the lights have been flickering on and off, nonstop thunder and lightning here in beautiful sunny nighttime southern Florida. So if the power goes out or anything, just keep the show moving. But otherwise, we're excited to be here for tonight's call. We got a great speaker coming up, and we've got some upcoming DEs we want you to be know about here. Starting with our next DE, Summer DE, summertime. Yeah, it's summertime, and we're going to spend summer, but in Hotlanta at the Marriott Perimeter Center, July 18th through the 21st. Going to be an incredible DE conference. You want to start getting your plans together. I know we just came off of DE, but that was a month ago, and now it's time to get ready for the next DE. We've got some upcoming dates for some future DEs here. We've got one in Atlanta, October 24th to the 27th. Then we're back to Clearwater for January 9th through the 12th and April 10th through the 13th. You can register for any and all of those conferences at lifede.com. That October 24th to the 27th is our special DE 60th. Yes, 60 years of DE, our 60th anniversary gala. Just like Diamonds, DE is forever. There's going to be a gala that with a James Bond theme, formal evening. Tickets are on sale for that. That's Saturday, 7 p.m., October 26th. Make sure to get your extra ticket for that. That is going to be a historic event. I was at the 50th, and I look back on that night. My mom was able to join me while she was still alive, and lots of wonderful friends and fellowship there. So you're not going to want to miss the 60th. It's going to be an epic event. So, also, the DE rings are on sale for you special DE people. There's rings available. The DE ring, you saw a lot of the board members had them at the last DE. You can go on the website, lifede.com, and order your ring right from there. You'll need to get a ring size from a local jewelry shop or pawn shop. I ordered mine today. It's a great ring. Wear it proudly. And then also there's the DE pendants for the ladies, which is like the top of the ring on a pendant, which is beautiful. So feel free to order those. You'll definitely want to have those for the 60th gala. Everyone will be in style for that one. Knicks are up by 9. Very exciting for us New York Knicks fans. 2-2 against the Pacers, so we'll keep abreast of that. But our speaker for tonight is a guy who's relatively new to DE. Yeah, he only was at his second one here in April. Started in January. Then went to April for his second. Mainly because he was in Canada, and Canada had horrific COVID rules during the pandemic, and he couldn't travel for years, just like Peter Amlinger. But then once he came out of it and they were able to travel again, he made his way right to DE, and now he's been on absolute fire. I've enjoyed talking with him offline and also at DE. And this guy is an up-and-comer, and I'm excited to hear what he's got to share, making his DE debut from Stratford, Ontario, Canada. Let's give it up for Dr. Steve Lafay. Yay, Emma!
Well, thank you very much, Brian. And thank you, Emma. What a heartfelt introduction that was. And how can't that open someone's heart and get them ready to speak? I always enjoy the all right, all right, all right. And Emma is awesome. Absolutely. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to open with attitude of gratitude. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak to the DE family tonight. I have been extremely moved in my experiences with DE since January and again in April. I'm going to get into a bit of that tonight throughout my talk. I just really believe that DE is so important, not only for our profession, but for our world. And let me start with a story, and then we'll get into this and we'll let it unfold a little bit, okay? So a few weeks back here in Canada, I'm sure you guys all around in the US as well, we experienced the solar eclipse. And what was so cool about this solar eclipse was that it was a complete eclipse. So that is something that happens about every 200 years, okay? And so we'll talk a little bit about how that happens, but why is it important, okay? So up here in Canada, like Dr. Brian said, I am from Canada, and we had a very unique way of handling the pandemic, which included lockdowns, mandating vaccines. You couldn't go in restaurants, you couldn't go in the arena, I couldn't go to the US. There was a whole lot of things that I couldn't do because of the choices that I made. And as the story unfolds, we'll understand why I made those choices. But to get to our analogy, so up here in Canada, we have something called the CBC, which is a state-owned and state-funded show on science. And so, yes, the Andrew Chan is the host. It's called About It. And he goes into this great detail about explaining a whole lot of things about science. So he's talking about the solar eclipse that we had as it was upcoming. He was explaining to all the Canadians who watched the show. And what this details is how things can go wrong when your basic premise is off the mark, okay? Because we know in chiropractic that the basic premise, the first principle, we're principled chiropractors, the basic premise that our profession, that our healing art, the art, science, and philosophy of chiropractic is based on, is that there's a universal intelligence in all matter, giving it to it its properties and actions, and thus maintaining it in existence. And that's a basic premise from which everything else follows, including the other 32 principles, okay? So I want to show you this. So think about this for a moment, okay? The Earth, you can see I have a globe in the back, okay? So the Earth is let's say this is the Earth, okay? And then for us to understand a solar eclipse, okay? So then we have the sun, which is massive, way bigger than the Earth, okay? And in between there is this little moon that's even smaller than the Earth, okay? So this little moon is orbiting around our Earth, and it's going to get to a place about every 200 years where this little moon, here's our Earth, here's the moon, here's the great big sun, and it's going to completely eclipse this great big sun. So my mind about 20 years ago says, I'm curious to know how this works, right? I mean, the moon is so small compared to the sun. So I look into it. Well, it turns out, if you look it up, that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. Okay. So then in my mind, I say, well, how is it that that doesn't just look like a little speck and just cover a piece of that sun, right? So this is all now dimensions. So the Earth can be in a position relative to the sun. And so in order for the moon to completely eclipse that great big 400 times bigger sun, it has to be exactly 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun. So think about that for a moment. It has to be exactly 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun in order to eclipse the sun that's 400 times bigger than the moon. Okay? And it eclipses perfectly. Not close, perfectly. Okay? So I look at that and I say, evidence that there's a universal intelligence in all matter, giving it to it its properties and actions, and thus maintaining it in existence. No brainer. Okay? So chiropractic, our principle is spot on. Okay? On display for the world to see. However, this is what happens when your basic premise is off the mark. Okay, so Andrew Chan does a 20-minute spot on the eclipse and how this goes. And I'm waiting to hear how he's going to handle this dimensions being perfect. And he blows it off by saying, by some grand cosmic bit of dumb luck, the moon happens to be 400 times closer to the earth than the sun. And then he goes into the whole science behind it all, okay? And how it travels and moves, and there's patterns on the earth where it's going to show better than others. And the public who watch it, who aren't dipped in our principle, buy it. They just buy that it's a fluke that the solar eclipse can happen like that. And that gets my ire up, okay? When, Brian mentioned it, so we can go there, being in Canada, when people's basic premise, when they're not living by a principle, there's no anchor. BJ said, who can anchor to an unanchored mind? Okay? So part of the challenge for us principled people in Canada who innately knew that there was no massive risk, that there's millions of microbes in this room right now. There is in the room you're watching me from. And we're not afraid that the one microbe that they were speaking about was going to take us out. Life became very difficult. And what became difficult about it was I saw people that I had looked after chiropractically, believed I was teaching the principle for 25 years. Change like that. And the mechanism that changed them was fear. They became fearful. The media kept dosing them and dosing them and dosing them, just like Andrew Chan dosed them about the science behind everything. Because if your basic premise is off, the whole thing made sense. The whole thing made sense, right down to saying 6 feet distance was going to save someone's life. Okay? So look, I don't want to spend our whole talk talking about that. We know that that was a dark time and that people were misled. Okay? People were lied to, and they bought it because they were afraid. They were afraid for their lives. They were also afraid that they were going to hurt other people. They were afraid that everything they had built, they could lose. I mean, my wife lost her job. She wasn't allowed to work in the hospital anymore. So where I'm coming from on this is that we're principled chiropractors, okay? So our lives are dedicated to principle. We have anchored minds because we're anchored in our principle, okay? So what is the principle? The principle is that there's a universal intelligence. That's our basic premise. But in each of us, there's something that we call innate intelligence. Yes? So the innate intelligence, what is the mission? What's happening, right? When we talk about universal intelligence and its mission, and innate intelligence and its mission. And so I go to the green books. Up from below the bottom, BJ Palmer wrote all about this. He asks, what is the mission of universal intelligence? To build this world, to keep it builded, to rebuild it when it dies, to keep this world constantly shaping to the highest idealist form, to make, create, or individualize itself into innate intelligences. Innate intelligence is a sunbeam, a ray of light from total of all lights, or sum total of senses. It is not an individual portion, yet it is. What is the mission of innate intelligence? Subdivide into innate and educated portions. Okay, so Universal intelligence is in all matter. Innate intelligence is that little bit that is within all of us, not some of us, but all of us. Okay? And innate intelligence's job then is to adapt our bodies and heal from the top down, inside out, right? And it flows through our nervous system. So I used to say for years and years and years, I would say that the body is a self-healing mechanism, and that our nervous system is balanced. It's able, and without interference from subluxation, it's able to heal us. And I came to DE in January, and I heard my brother Pete Amlinger say, the nervous system does not heal us. We are not self-healing mechanisms. And I thought, wait a minute, what's this all about? This was, one of the first speakers at DE, and I'm thinking, so and then he drops the bomb, and he says, life heals us through our nervous systems. And I was like, whoa, right? Because look, we could take a knife right now and we could cut my finger. And if we had the time, we could just sit here and watch it. It would bleed, and that would cleanse the wound. And then it would clot. And then if we had enough time to keep watching, that clot would turn into a scab. And if we had even longer still, the body would remodel and it would become a scar. And longer still, that scar may actually disappear. And so life flows through our innate intelligence over our nervous system to our bodies and heals us from the top down, inside out. Okay? But then I read The Bigness of the Fellow Within, and B.J. Palmer talks about the awakening to his innate voice, understanding innate. So I say to myself, there's something more here than just healing our bodies. We're actually talking about now connecting with our highest self, which is then connected to God or universal intelligence. So BJ talks about the story of that something. And that's the story how when he was young, he woke up and he found that something in himself that helped him become who we all know and love as BJ Palmer. And he asks us to take that something and borrow it from our soul and baptize our lives in it. Anoint your eyes that you may see. Anoint your ears that you may hear. And anoint your heart that you may be. In our being is where healing really comes. We come to DE to shed husks. We shed husks to get the layers away, the subluxations away, because I don't believe that, like, what is that something? What it's not that I don't believe what's that something. I was going somewhere else. What is that something? Is it ambition? Is it faith? Is it courage? It's all that and more. In my humble estimation, I've been a chiropractor for 27 years. I would say that that something is love. It's the closest word we have to it. Okay? So we come to DE, and what is the dynamic essential? It's beautiful. The dynamic essential is the new consciousness that is born within a person when they become aware of, humble to, and obedient to the will of God within them. When they find that something, when they peel away husks, when they reduce subluxation to the place where they get to where they're at, to themselves. When we ask people to point to themselves, almost everyone points right here. They point to their heart. We are who we are in our heart. I don't believe that love is an emotion. I believe it's our very essence. And so why does that matter when people come to us? And they come to us, right, and they're subluxated. And we explain to them that we're going to look for subluxations in your spine because they're the blockage. They're the thing that interferes with the flow of life through you. And so we're going to adjust those subluxations to the best of our ability, reduce the interference, allow your innate to flow, which allows life to flow from the top down, inside out, above down, inside out. It happens no other way. That's healing. The word healing comes from the Anglo-Saxon root word, hail, which means whole or hearty. And so healing happens from the heart, okay? And we know scientifically that when a chiropractor or any physician of any kind, a chiropractor is in their heart, they have gratitude, attitude of gratitude. Thank you to DE. Thank you to Andy, Dr. Andy Harding, for asking me to speak tonight and share with my DE family. Thank you for the love that we share when we come to the meetings. It's palpable. Closing exercises, my eyes and nose just started leaking. I couldn't stop it. It's beautiful. People loving on each other, man. Where else in the world do you get that? You come from Canada where you're locked down. You're not allowed to go to the arenas. You can't. And then you come to DE and you get loved on and you start shedding husk and you get spizzed up again and you remember. It's a revitalization. Dr. John Balsamo said that he's in a time of revitalization, regrowth, and finding love for chiropractic again. He told me a story by the pool about how his landlord was bad to him, and so he had roof leaked, and it was time to leave, and it was painful, it was hard, it was uncomfortable, and he moved down just another town over, and that was uncomfortable for him, and it made me feel so good because I fell in love with DE so much that I brought my daughter, and she's going to graduate here in June. She's graduated from CMCC, but she's got a heart for service. And I thought, you got to come. You got to experience DE. So I said, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I just want you to come. I just want to watch you experience it for the first time. So I brought her in April. We came down, and so we're out by the pool. I'm hearing that from John. And so with Cassie coming into the practice, I mean, we got all kinds of new stuff happening. We're digitizing our x-rays and we're upgrading the office space and we're hiring staff. And it feels just like John said, Dr. John, he's like, this is a revitalization. And it's like starting over for me, 27 years in practice. And it's a beautiful thing, right? So when we go back to the story of that something, they ask BJ, they say to him, how do we awaken that something? And he said, the secret is in these words, I will. And so for those of you who are on the Monday night group, I told the story about how I didn't choose to be a chiropractor. It chose me. And I was letting the block of doing physics and organic chemistry stop me. And I realized that these words, I will, when you say I will, magic happens. And it's not always easy. I remember I was failing physics and I was down in the basement doing the homework. And, they assign, numbers 1, 2, 4, 6, 12 out of 15. And I put my head down on the table and I'm like, I'm failing. I'm not going to be a chiropractor, but I'm destined to be a chiropractor. So I asked myself, what should I do? And I heard the wee small voice that BJ talked about. And it said, do every problem in every chapter for the rest of the semester. And sometimes innate asks us to do things that seem hard and we don't seem like maybe we're not worthy, okay? But when we say I will, we get in our hearts and magic happens. So when we're with patients and we're in our hearts, magic happens. It's called heart rate variability, and it increases when we feel gratitude, when we get grateful, and when we get present. Our heads and our hearts align. They use something called a squid magnetometer, and it measures the heart field and the headspace, the electromagnetic field around our heads and around our hearts. And we know that when we get in that space, living lasting purpose, loving for the sake of loving, giving for the sake of giving, serving for the sake of serving. Why? Because it feels good. It feels right. It's what innately driven people do. It's what people who are baptize their lives in the principle, who anoint their hearts that they may be. It's what we do because it feels right. And the science shows it. The science shows these magnetic fields, energetic fields around our bodies and around our heads. And our brain waves and our heart waves sync up. And we even know that then that the patient's brain waves and heart waves sync up to us, because who can anchor to an anchor mind? But when we're anchored in the principle, doing what we love, loving what we do, living lasting purpose, this is what happens. They measure it. Poof. Our heart field's open. The electromagnetic energy around our body is massive. And it's healing. It's healing for us and it's healing for our people. And we're in that space where you know that you know that you know. Dr. Brian, he spoke at the last DE. Dr. Kelly's hat. He knew because he loved RJ Kelly. He loved the man. And he felt innately, he said, you know when you know. He knew that he was to buy the hat. He knew that the hat was to be at DE. And the hat was sitting right beside me. It was beautiful. You know when you know. You know where the subluxations are. You do your checks. You follow through because you know if Dr. Sid was there watching, if Dr. BJ was there watching, you know. And I see in the background, I got to tell you another story, right? Another story. So we're at the last DE. And we're at the last DE, and I'm watching Dr. Brian Lieberman, and he's talking about doing the outreach for chiropractic, and he's wearing the hat, the Williams and the Umber hat, and I'm like, that hat's awesome. I'd already bought this T-shirt. I love this T-shirt. I bought some books. I bought a T-shirt for my daughter, right? There's gas right on, right? We bought her some stuff. So, and then of course, Dr. Judson, Steve comes up and he's giving away stuff just out of his heart, right? Great stuff, beautiful stuff. And he brings up the kids. I think Emma was up there throwing stuff out and they're throwing it to the other side of the room. So I kind of give up on it. And then the kid throws that hat and it starts curving my way. And I'm not really paying attention because I'd given up on it. And I had brought a classmate who hadn't been to DE. He'd been to DE right out of school, like 27 years ago, Seb Garnaccia. And I love him. He's like a brother. And he's sitting right beside me. And he's like, I'm glad you dragged me here, man. This is awesome, right? And the hat's spinning and it's curving like a Frisbee towards us. And Seb, I feel him bang into my arm as he goes for the hat. And it tips off his hands. And then I focus in because he hit me and it kind of focused me. And all of a sudden, innately, I put up my hands. And there it is. And that's the hat I have sitting on the globe there, because it was such a story of, when you're inspired, which means in spirit, and when you're enthusiastic. To be enthusiastic, we have to act enthusiastic, right? It's so fun, and you're in such a high vibratory state, pulsing at a high vibratory state. It's healing for you. It's healing for the people. It's attractive. People come to the office. They show up like Field of Dreams. They don't even know why they're coming. They're just coming because you're on fire and you're going to tune them back in to their innate and allow them to see things as they are and to listen to the wee small voice in their innate and start living that way. And so I catch the hat and I say, this is how easy it is. You just surrender. You ask, you surrender, you put your hands out for service, and it's given to you. And so I take the hat over to Dr. Umber and I tell him this story. And I said, Dr. Umber, you got to sign this hat for me. You're a treasure, And so he takes the hat. I tell him the story and he just laughs and he goes, Innate's on the job, man. It was beautiful. It couldn't be said better. And Innate is on the job, man. So my whole life, it's been just this constant refinement, shedding husk so that you can listen, you can trust, and you can act. You can borrow it from your soul and you can baptize your life in it. And your life as a principled person and a principled chiropractor can be beautiful. So Dr. Umber wrote in my hat, right in the bill, God bless you always and in all ways. Dee Dee Umber. So touching. So that's there because I feel, it was said at DE, would Dr. Umber, would Dr. Sid, would BJ himself, would Dr. Dick Sano, would Dr. Jim Sigafus, my mentors, would they be proud of you today if they were watching you in your clinic? So I say to myself, okay, I'm going to start doing my not spinal care classes, my doctor's report again. Okay. I commit to it. I'm getting home. We get home. It's DE is just ending. We get the late flight home. We're hanging out with Dr. Pete and Katie Gay, and Katie challenges me, said, I'm doing it. So we go to the airport. We're walking away. And just like when Nate said to me, do every problem in physics, every chapter. And I was like, oh, man. And I was like, man. And Katie goes, I'm doing it. Are you doing it? As she's walking away. And I said, I will. And something shifted in me. So we get the late flight home. We don't get to bed till 2 a.m. I'm back in the office at 7:30 the next day. And it's my birthday. I turned 56. I have every reason in the book. So I put up there, the doctor's report starting next Monday night, every Monday night at 6:00, right? Well, my next patient says, I can't make it next Monday. I could come tonight. The universe has a way of making us face our stuff. So I just take a breath and I say, I will. And we do the doctor's report. And I explain this stuff about the innate intelligence of your body. And I think of Dr. Peter back in January saying, not only do we want to check for subluxation and clear that so that they can heal above, down, inside out, but we also need to teach the principle. And I thought of Dr. Moriarty and how he's adjusting all these politicians in Florida and how the next Speaker of the House is going to live principled. We need more principled journalists to tell the truth, not the baloney they're teaching up here in Canada. We need more principled lawyers. We need more principled judges. We need more principled politicians. And it's in our hands. We're the principled profession if we stand up and claim it and teach it. And so I said, I will. The other thing we've done is I had kind of forgotten, I'd kind of forgotten how sacred an adjustment is. I've been talking about things through the pandemic. People were lonely. We just talked. There was only one person allowed in the office at a time. So what do? I got off purpose, okay? But it's a reset. DE's been so wonderful in so many ways, right? I'm reading green books, right? I'm listening to talks. I'm doing 49 breaths. I'm meditating. I'm on the Monday night calls. So we have our DE family holding each other accountable. I'm texting with Vinny every day, telling each other how much we love and appreciate each other and have a great day. I'm texting with Katie Gay and we're talking about how good it feels, how innately good it feels to be sharing the principle again. We need principled people that not only get adjusted, but understand the principle, listen to their innates, and tell others. Okay? I wrote this 20 some odd years ago, and it says, a master of chiropractic is a master of life. A masterful adjustment given with presence, certainty, gratitude, and love brings a transformation within the nervous system. It enables people to reach a higher level of consciousness, of purpose, of love, and of healing. It helps the nervous system be more aware from the inside out, more aware of its gifts and talents, more aware of the God within, the dynamic essential. A masterful adjustment facilitates the natural evolution from within to take place in our life, to grow that 1 inch beyond mediocrity necessary for a remarkable life. A masterful adjustment facilitates the natural evolution from within to take place in our life. It's a sacred act, something precious. It's a gift of life. As a master, you participate in the natural growth and evolution of the people you practice the art, science, and philosophy of chiropractic with. Be who you are. Trust who you are. A master of chiropractic, sharing your light and your love with your human family. The last thing I'm going to share is lasting purpose. Lasting purpose, a mindset for success. I want to tell one quick story about Dr. Sid and how he found that something within himself and why I'm going to buy a DE ring. He tells a story about trying out for his high school football team at 137 pounds, going head to head with the captain. And the captain runs him over, breaks his nose, cuts his face. His helmet's askew. He's seeing triple. He stands back up. The coach says, boy, get on the line again. Block that man. The captain, 200 pounds, runs him over again, breaks his nose. He's concussed. He can barely see. And the coach grabs him and pulls him up and says, boy, I told you to block that man. And then he does something. He hits him over the top of the head with his ring, his Georgia football ring. And he said the lump grew right away and something happened to him when that ring hit him in the top of the head, and he forgot about his educated mind, and he went to his innate mind. And he remembered to get his butt low and get low. And as soon as the coach took off his hat, which was a signal to go, he went. He went without hesitation, without doubt, without fear. And he came up under the captain and he drilled him and he moved him backwards and he kept his legs pumping and he dropped on top of him. And he was like, whoa, what just happened? Everybody was silent. Coach said, boy, get on the line and do it again. He stood on the line and he did the exact same thing. He didn't think. He just listened to his innate, that wee small voice that said, go as soon as the hat moves. And he drilled the captain again and got up on him and he drilled his feet, move his feet, dropped him and fell on top of him. And the coach said, boy, I like you. The ring. I'm buying a DE ring. I'm getting sized this week and I'm going to wear it because it's a sign and it's the way Dr. Sid found that something. And it's going to be a reminder that I got to keep living that something. And I could only ask the same for you. I'm going to end with a quote from BJ because I love and appreciate you, your family. I brought my daughter. I bring my family. I bring my friends. I'm going to bring everyone I can to DE. And I want you to remember this from BJ Palmer. May God flow from above down, his bounteous strengths, courage, and understanding to carry on. And may your innates receive and act on that free flow of wisdom from above down, inside out. You have in your possession a sacred trust. Guard it well. I love and appreciate you all. Have a great night.
Wow. Wow. Wow, Steve. I gotta tell you, I did not see that coming. That was an awesome talk, man. Great job, buddy.
Thank you.
Your enthusiasm. I feel like you're a doc that just graduated chiropractic school and is like ready to take the world on fire. And the fact that you just said you turned 56, man, I hope I got as much energy as you do at 56. But that was an awesome talk. Your enthusiasm is incredible, and I'm blessed to have heard that message. And I think everybody who was on tonight was incredibly blessed to hear it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
No problem. And guys, yeah, keep those comments coming. If you liked what you heard, put those comments in there. So when future people look back on this talk, they'll realize this was an epic night. So thank you, Dr. Steve. We're going to see you in July at DE, I'm hoping, right?
Woo!
With your ring on.
I got my membership.
You got the membership. You got it.
Yes,
got to
sir.
do it. So, well, I'm excited to see you, brother, in July, and keep on fighting the good fight up there. And incredible job. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next Tuesday night on the Tuesday night Band of Brothers Principled Chiro broadcast.